Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another discussion on, well-being, right? That's what we're really talking about. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I am here to help people become the boss of their thoughts so they can live their very best life. Their very best life. That means spending their life minutes as if they were cash. And so, we've been talking about a lot of different things. We've been talking about anxiety and how to sometimes reduce it, but mostly manage it, really. Or actually, if we're managing it, then we are reducing it, I suppose. And this has had a lot to do with understanding that thoughts come first and feelings come second. And there goes our loud car by our house. Okay. Thoughts come first and feelings come second. And so the thoughts we allow in literally dictate how we feel, right? So then we did some exercises with, keeping away or keeping the monkey mind at bay, because it's also very important, remember, to realize that we are not our thoughts. Thoughts are not who we are. Thoughts are not facts. Feelings are not facts. And we're going to talk a little bit today about fact checking, and also about getting rid of the roadblocks, because some of the other things we've talked about guilt and shame, and the difference between guilt being an action word and shame being, just basically turpentine for the spirit, right? Guilt says I made a mistake, whereas shame says I am the mistake, right? So we talked about anxiety, talked about managing that. We're going to do a whole nother episode on depression, so we're going to leave that right there. And we've also talked about mindfulness and the importance of intentional breathing. It keeps us alive, we know that, so there's the obvious. And also the intentional breathing and the neurological benefits of returning the mind to the body and bringing it all together. And today I really want to kind of talk about those roadblocks, because we want to, hopefully, we are striving to be able, by becoming the boss of our thoughts, right? We are striving to live our very best life, and also to, invite our authentic self to return to power, so that we can, live our lives, be who we are unapologetically. Unapologetically, it doesn't mean, obviously, if you hurt someone, we apologize, whether it's intentional or not. We're not talking about that. We're talking about walking around feeling like damaged goods, even if it's anywhere in the spectrum of damage. Maybe it's a lot, maybe it's a middle amount, and maybe it's a little bit. But hopefully we're getting to a point where, we're reaching a point of self-acceptance and to fact check. It's very, very important. In fact, I'm remembering having a talk with my Nana-in-law, great Nana Smith, or Nana Smith to us, great Nana Smith to our kids, when she turned 80. And you had to just picture this woman. She, beautiful, kind of olivey brown skin. Her hair is gorgeous silver fox gray, and pulled back like Zsa Zsa Gabor. It is dating myself. That's okay. I like Zsa Zsa. Pulling it back, and then she wore a lot of fuchsia. She had this, gray, gorgeous hair pulled back, brownish skin, and she wore fuchsia capes. Not like, Superman, but like just capes. And she loved to eat, and she owned it. And so she would kind of come, kind of had like like Nana swag in her cape with her gray hair, and loved to eat, loved to laugh and everything else. So on her 80th birthday, I asked her, and I said, Nana, what advice would you give, to the rest of us? And I don't know how old I was, probably I don't even know, 30s, I guess, at the time. What advice would you give, the rest of us after, living for 80 years? And she kind of did this. She went, She said, well, I know for one thing, she said, I would suggest you just stop apologizing so much. Stop apologizing so much. People apologize too much. When you do something, okay, but otherwise, stop apologizing. Oh, what did I say? What did I say? Did I say something wrong? Oh, I'm sorry. All this, I'm sorry for what reason? You're not really doing anything. It's ridiculous. It's really just coming from a place of insecurity. So, number one, stop apologizing so much. And then she said, definitely spend less time cleaning the bathroom, which made me roar. And I would just add to that, if you're going to clean the bathroom, be in your, be in your mind and just, enjoy the monotony and the mindful, the mindful mindlessness, if that sort of makes sense. And then there's a couple more things here. In order to be able to live our best life and be ourselves unapologetically, we need to spend time with ourselves. I know that sounds ridiculous. And we're not talking about, just setting time to go, do something with somebody. I mean, actually questioning yourself. Talk to yourself. Am I happy? Am I happy? We make time for other people, and we make really good quality time for other people. We have these deep conversations with other people when stuff is going on in their lives, and we sit with them and we ask. Hopefully we're actively listening. But do we do that to ourselves and with ourselves? Do we make time to actually talk to and listen to actively, mindfully ourselves? And so I'll tell you, just had a little experience with this, and I was inspired to make this video today. Actually, I just had lunch with a very dear friend of mine from St. Mike's, and we actually call him Yoda because he just oozes wisdom out of his pores. And he was talking about the last YouTube I did about the calling. Everybody seemed to like the calling one, which is great. It's good news. And he asked me, do you ever do any, like, I forgot how he phrased it. Basically, do you do any of this with yourself? And I said, interestingly, yes. It was the morning of that video. I think it was like right before that video, or maybe right after. I don't know, but it was in very close proximity of doing it that I did. I sat with myself and I thought, as far as what am I on this earth to do? And I was having this chat with my friend Yoda, and then he went back to him for a second. He said, I knew it. Now he's 77, gonna be 78 in November. He said at 29 years old, I knew I was put on this earth. I was born to help people, which is absolutely spot on true, because he's been a channel of healing for just thousands at this point. His words now, he's a dear, dear friend, are just food for my soul. I can't even tell you. It's like just dumping. I would say Miracle Girl, but that's a little toxic, so that's not a good example. Really good food for the soul. Really good food for the soul. And I said to him, I said, and he said, and you are too. And I said, you're right. I am too. I am definitely, here to help people. And then I told him I took it to another level, because I really wanted to get deep with what really is like the pull for me, and what's so rewarding, and it pulls in both of my roles at Champlain and just how I live my life outside of all of that. Because becoming the boss of your thoughts and all this work with well-being and the cognitive work and helping, becoming a vehicle to help people live their best life, really, I'm feeling like part of my main mission, what I feel very attracted to doing, like my spirit's just like immersed in helping people see their own value. That's really what it's about, is helping people see their own value, which has a whole lot to do with getting that feeling of original worthiness back, which has a whole lot to do with recognizing and defending against shame, or expunging shame. And that all leads to, the authentic self, inviting her or him or them back into power. All that's the same. Helping people see their own value, and, via the anti-shame campaign. So it pulls in all the well-being stuff that I do, all the projects and the presentations and the webinars for parents, and all of that, and also with teaching psychology, specifically Mindcraft, but also the other courses. It really is all about that main thing, is really, it's really trying to, channel authenticity. Really, that's what it's about. So yes, so very inspired to do that. Now here's the thing, with that said, in order to get on our most, live our best lives, and ask, request, enjoy our true authentic self being in the driver's seat once again, in addition to managing the monkey mind, because the authentic self wants a clear mind. It's like a clear stage to dance on, or something like that. She or he or they need, just like we create a space, a vacuum for any sort of creativity. she can't walk through the door if it's closed, kind of thing, right? Empty, so I like that actually. An empty stage to dance, or sometimes artists will say an empty canvas to paint on. That's what we need. We need to get rid of all the self deprecating stuff and the what if thinking, the catastrophizing, and then sometimes just the waste of time thinking. Maybe it's not super damaging, but it's just like having a radio caught in between stations. That needs to go too. And then on a deeper level, we really need to do the work with the archaeological dig and understand why we're doing what we're doing, because human beings, we don't do anything unless there's payoff in it. We just don't. And people often assume payoff is a positive thing, and it's not always a positive thing. We can think like we're thinking maybe monetary, because we use the word pay or something, but no. There's often payoff, huge payoff, in codependent relationships. The rescuers out there that are, and we're not saying not to be a good person. Obviously, it's good to be a good person. We're talking about rescuing to get self-worth from that, and people pleasing, and all the different ways are being controlling or needing to be controlled. Or there's just so many. We're gonna have to do probably several episodes on that. And then there's just we can also attract certain types of people into our lives and not be aware of it, and that stems from early childhood stuff usually. And for me, for quite a while, I attracted bullies into my life, and I was aware of it. That this is how much this is a thing, right? I was aware of it, and I would call my best friend from growing up. You've heard me talk about, and I'd say, "What's going on? There's another one." And they weren't playing a major role. Definitely not my husband. He's a love bug. Just in different, just different little periphery areas of my life. But I'm like, here's another one. And I would say to Lori, I would say, because she would attract a certain somebody into her life over and over too. And she's like, I don't get it. We're both aware of it, and we just kind of came up with, we're not getting the lesson. Because when there's a spiritual lesson to learn, it's kind of like you keep taking the quiz over and over until you pass it, sort of thing. And so finally, I just really was digging, and I just, obviously, it maybe seemed, well, I shouldn't use that word obvious so much, I guess, because it was. I guess I should just say it a lot, because it was that obvious, especially to her, because given my childhood, growing up in a very dysfunctional, alcoholic, abusive, narcissistic home, it's no big surprise that I remained comfortable, being, in a sense, bullied. I don't want to overuse that word, but that's really what it was. Constant just controlling and manipulating, which manipulating obviously is controlling, and all the shame-based stuff, and the gaslighting, and and when you grow up with all that shame, and people not treating you well, a lot, not all of the time, because that's obviously polarized, a lot of the time, it becomes our normal. It becomes what we're used to. And whether your family is one where there's addiction or not, we don't have to check that box if that isn't for you. It could be lots of reasons. There are lots of reasons little children are dependent on sick people. Toxic parents. There are lots of toxic parents out there, and it's all for different reasons. There could be, mental illness. There could be obviously their own scarring from coming up. And however, we're filing all that from the ground up, right? And it gets in our hard drive, and we don't even know that it's in our hard drive. In fact, most of us don't have memories before the age of 3 unless there's some sort of trauma, and that's called infantile amnesia. And so, and obviously we've seen 2 and 3-year-olds walking around. They're talking full sentences, and they're excited about their birthdays, and they got a whole life going on, a little best friend, maybe an imaginary friend, and yet there isn't really a memory of it. And you might be saying, oh, yes, I do. You might think you do, and you might have parts of memories. What you do have, though, are unconscious memories. They're called implicit memories, and those are our feeling memories. So all the attachment stuff, when somebody picked you up and held you when you were hungry, tired, sad, just needing affection, that's all stored in the basal ganglia part of the brain, which is for unconscious memory. So the feelings of trust when somebody got you, or the opposite, somebody was hit or miss with that, and then you would have attachment, probably some attachment issues, either anxious or avoidant. And so that's also a whole nother YouTube. Just to make the point, though, we enter adulthood, and like the archaeology dig starts, and it's kind of like and it's also exciting. We don't want to put a negative spin on it, because it's kind of like the game Clue or something. If, like, Colonel Mustard in the library with the lead pipe, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what happened there, you know? And so I just realized, and eventually, once I really got it, that this was this deep stuff that was so unconscious, I'd really be able to tackle that stuff. And then, wow, does that clear the air when you get rid of the roadblocks. I think of them like in the road when it's take a detour and they're, you know, stopping you from going into potholes or something. These blocks get in the way, in addition to the monkey mind thoughts, and contribute to the monkey mind thoughts. These blocks that we may have from our childhood can really get in the way of allowing ourselves to be our best self, and unapologetically, that is such a good word, unapologetically, because we've got resistance sometimes to believing that we are a good person. Even if everything up here tells us we are, and people in our lives tell us we are, when we have deep stuff in the hard drive that says the opposite, we can really resist no matter who tells us we're a good person or says whatever nice things that feeds our soul. There's like these shields up, and shields can be good when they're meant to protect from, you know, bad things. Shields, sadly, once you have shields up, they're blocking out all of it, right? And so it really took me a while to really get to that place, and it's important to really explore, because the payoff is strong. It's really, really strong, and it keeps us feeling comfortable with things that aren't healthy and even toxic. And I'll tell you something to hopefully make you laugh. I have a very good friend of mine from St. Mike's, and I saw him a few years ago at a social thing. And he said, they called me Kimmer at St. Mike's. You know, Kimmer, he said, I know what you're saying, because I have this person, I have a few people at work. They have a dynamic together. They're really challenging, and my friend is such a good vibe. He's funny, and he's such a good vibe. And he said, I just kept praying to God. We're praying to God. I said, you know, because I didn't know what else to do, and I prayed to God. God, please help me learn to deal with difficult people. I mean, I love my job. I don't want to leave. I love my clients. Dear God, please help me deal with difficult people. And he looks over at me and he says, Kimma. He's got his Boston accent. Kimma, you know what God did? I said, what? He said, God sent me more difficult people. That made me roar, because that's how it works. It was like me with like the bullies coming in. It was like, they're gonna keep coming until you get it, till you pass the quiz, till you figure it out. And we really need to prioritize ourselves, just like we would schedule a dentist appointment. If we had an abscessed tooth, we would stop everything and make it to the dentist. Well, why wait for that, right? Take some time. I'm talking about like what I just did yesterday or the day, whatever that was. I do that every day mindfully in the morning in gratitude journal anyway, but this was specifically that calling thing. Are you happy? Absolutely. I'm just, oh my God, that happy doesn't even do justice to how I feel most days. Everybody has a bad day, but I don't have, thankfully, that many. And it takes work. Anything in life takes work and effort. And so all the things we said about managing anxiety, the monkey mind, being mindful, spending life minutes like they're cash, and also making the time to have tea with yourself with no distractions, zero. The occasional hummingbird or something like that, which isn't a distraction. That's a pleasant little gift, right? I love hummingbirds. I think I was a hummingbird in a past life, because that's like the speed at which I fly. Pun intended, I guess. All right, so that's just the beginning of this, because this is going to, I just feel that this conversation is going to, you know, continue, right? All right, this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Live your best life. Be yourself unapologetically.